Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news and analysis from Taichung, Taiwan. I'm Donovan Smith. All right, up today in the program, Taiwan's second successful recall takes place in Yilan. A poll shows surging identification as Taiwanese, and I've got a lot to say on the subject. It looks like the Somaliland military base report wasn't true. But first up, some headlines. After the first round of pre-ordering the stimulus vouchers began on Wednesday, nearly 1 million eligible people from underprivileged groups on Thursday began receiving a subsidy to purchase vouchers in their postal savings account, the department's Ministry of Social Affairs, Social Assistance, and Social Work said. The 1,000 NT subsidy is for them to buy 3,000 worth of vouchers, so they would not be excluded from the program. Local governments have been instructed to reinstate a ban on single-use plastic utensils in public spaces as the nation's pandemic situation has eased, the Environmental Protection Agency said. The ban on disposable utensils was temporarily lifted for food establishments, granted approval by local governments to help stop the spread of disease. The launch of a new national electronic identification card, which was scheduled for October in Taiwan, is highly unlikely this year due to the pandemic situation, a Ministry of the Interior official said. Curiously, the sample image the government has issued of the new card has the sample person's name written using China's Hanyu Pinyin rather than the Wade Giles normally used in Taiwan for people's names. Indian media is reporting that China Airlines is charging 6 times the normal price for tickets to India. Hundreds of Indians, a majority of them students, are at the mercy, according to the report, of China Airlines for evacuating them from Taiwan to India. The Indian government has not arranged any repatriation Air India flight from Taipei. Taiwan Power Party lawmaker Tsai Biru has sparked controversy by saying that young people follow the tide of fashion in politics. TPP party chair and Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je tried to play it down, saying, quote, "The world in the future belongs to the young. We should just support them." The local manufacturing sector remained in contraction in May, but the index gauging the sector's conditions moved higher, pointing to a rebound, according to the Taiwan Institute of Economic Research. A village chief in Yilan County was recalled Saturday as the majority of residents voted against him because he had backed a mining project in the area. According to the county's election commission, turnout at the polls was 67.75%, with 257 people voting to recall Zhonghua village chief Xu Zhongdong and 137 casting ballots against the motion. The central issue in the recall effort in the Zhonghua village is a proposal to launch a clay and silica rock mining project, which Xu said he had supported only because experts had given the assurance that there was no risk of pollution. In June, the cabinet gave approval for an environmental impact assessment of the mining project. This is only the second successful recall in Taiwan's history. However, a whole slew of recall drives are underway, mostly launched by supporters of recalled Kaohsiung Mayor Han Kuo-yu against pan-green politicians. Some have already passed stage 1 and have moved into stage 2 signature drives. After the 2 stages of signature drives for a recall to pass, only 25% of the electorate have to vote yes, and the yes votes must outnumber the no votes. This relatively low bar means a far smaller number of voters who voted in a candidate can vote them out. That makes this potentially a partisan attack tool and could be used to harass politicians. The legislature has also been considering allowing political donations to recall campaigns, which would make it even easier. A record 67% of the population identify as Taiwanese, while only 2.4% consider themselves to be Chinese, according to a survey released on Friday by National Zhengzhi University's Elections Study Center. The most recent results represented an 8.5% point drop an 8.5% increase in those identifying as Taiwanese, up from 58.5%, and a 3.3% point decrease in those identifying as Chinese, down from 5.7% in June last year. The results showed that 27.5% of respondents consider themselves to be both Taiwanese and Chinese, down from 34.7% last year. Those surveyed who would advocate Taiwanese independence, if pressed to choose that or unification, also increased, rising from 15.1% in 2018 to 27.7% this year, the center said, adding that a separate 7.4% hoped for independence as soon as possible. Those wanting to maintain the status quo for now accounted for 28.7%, while those hoping that the status quo could be maintained in perpetuity accounted for 23.6%. Those wanting to unify with China as soon as possible accounted for 0.7%. Now, the trend lines for years have been moving toward a growing Taiwanese identity, sometimes going up and down a little bit, but generally the trend line has been in that direction. But there has been a very significant shift in public opinion this year that is far bigger than normal. In fact, in most cases, the jump in the numbers is the biggest ever recorded since the survey started in 1992. This is huge. Of the now, by the way, just to clarify something here, of the 2.4% who identify as Chinese, they almost certainly are. 2.4% of the population is about 570,000 people. There are about 350,000 spouses from China in Taiwan, and there are still quite a few elderly people like Jason Hu and James Sung who were born in China and came over in 1949. In other words, the number of people born in Taiwan who identify as Chinese only is tiny, and probably most are the children of parents who came over in 49. So, among people born in Taiwan, there has been a sharp jump in Taiwanese-ness. So, what is going on? I think two things: the behavior of China itself and increased pride in Taiwan. The increasingly belligerent behavior on the part of Xi Jinping's government is clearly a part, including the more overt military and diplomatic bullying, as well as explicitly tying one country, two systems to the 1992 consensus. Now, the rapidly deteriorating situation in Hong Kong is also playing a big part, as is China's behavior in handling the coronavirus. In short, Xi Jinping has been doing an excellent job of tarnishing the Chinese brand. Meanwhile, Taiwan has been a model for the world in handling the coronavirus. It is also a model democracy and overall a fairly well-run country. The percentage of the population that wants to maintain independence, those choosing independence now, and the status quo options of moving toward independence, keeping it for now, or status quo indefinitely, has reached 87.4%. Together, unification now, combined with status quo but move toward unification in the future, are only 6% total. The remaining number of people were no response. In other words, if only half of the non-responders want one of the non-unification options, then over 90% of Taiwanese want to remain independent in some form, really only differing in the name of the country. Bubble milk tea is less popular than that. In my next show, I'm going to go into what it means for local politics. Yesterday, I quoted from a Taiwan news report that quoted a French news outlet that quoted unnamed sources that Taiwan was planning to build a military base in Somaliland. You may also recall I cast doubt on the veracity of the report. The Taiwan news report has since been taken down, and a separate report on EABW News, citing United States Defense Department officials, says the Russians are going to set up a military base there. All right, that's our show. Please support us on Patreon and be like Brad. We put in many hours of work on these programs and on our site, and your support is crucial for us to carry on and improve going forward. All right, thank you for joining us. Be sure to hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Tell your friends about the show.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。